Really glad to be here at church. So before we step into the depths of the word, I would ask everybody to read with me Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose. And in 28, if you go 29 again, if you go forward, for those whom He foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son, and in order that He might be the firstborn among many brothers. So how many of us understood 28th verse? How many of us have a clear picture or a little understanding about what Romans 8:28 says? In simple language, it says that whoever, I'll just read the same thing. You need no translation or no going deep also. It says, for we know those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose. And how many of us believe that this verse is true? Can we all say this, that yes, this is really true? Those who love God, all things work together for good. But in reality, if you see, when you accept Christ as your Savior, or when you love God, people say that you hear so many things that I'm going through so much. నమ్ముకున్న తర్వాత కొంచెం కష్టాలు ఎక్కువైనాయి after, right? But how would we justify, or how would we bring understanding to this verse, or understand this verse saying that everything works in our favor or everything works good? How would we say? We definitely see that there is good things happening in our lives, right? We definitely see that there is so much of the goodness of God happening in our life, but in realistic times, what we see is so much of battle, so much of chaos, or you're going through situations where you see the goodness and all things working together, right? Is it true? Am I confusing? No, it seems like I'm a little confusing, Not twisting of so much of words. Simple japakunda, it's kind of going a little twisted and all. But in real life, so much of goodness of God, and everything works together for good as we go through situations and circumstances. Is it right? Is it properly, if I'm properly putting it, this is the right way, right? So I was reading this verse and said, true God, that every time, things work good when we love you, which means that you are with us, and things happen in our favor, or you are fighting on behalf of us, and you make things right. And I was just going through this verse, and I then found a character in Bible. I felt like a little bit of, things were working, together for him amidst of all chaos. And today's character, or the person is, I thought, was Joseph. How many of us know the story of Joseph? We all know the story of Joseph. So can you tell me who is his father? Very good. Loud answer would be appreciated. Jacob, his father, right? And he was born to? True. And how many brothers he had? How many brothers he had? Yep. Right? But from the mother and all, it's one, and then that's good one. So I would not share more of the story. We know we've been there for whole of Sunday school sessions or wherever we are. But in just when we look into, he was a very loving son. Papa ka ladla, you can probably call, right? And such a beloved child to his father. Then he was pampered, he was cared so much, he was provided. And then obviously when you are provided, when you're loved, the other people obviously have envy upon you, which, right? That is what we see in Bible also. His brothers envied him. And what we see here is, what is there in this youngster that we all, the elder brothers or all brothers, we are fighting, or we do everything for the family, but he is getting all the pampering and stuff and all. True, right? And then we see that, what has happened in his life that he was trying to grow more into God. He had the fear of the Lord, and then he was trying to please his father with everything that he does. And anyways, his father likes him, loves him, so he would not need to do much things. But just do anything, dad would be like, "Arey baap re, beautiful. Everything he does is beautiful and all." So he had that love from his family, father's love and all, which actually, was a trouble for him. Excuse me. So now, then we again, as we get into this more of the real story of Joseph, what we see here is he actually was sold. True? He was sold to? That's a question. Maybe that's the homework you put up to. He was sold to, his brother sold him, right? And he was sold to? Yeah, true. So that's the answer. So then, what exactly he went through was so much of ups and downs in life, right? What exactly we see here is a very loving child who was pampered, who was cared and provided, given everything that he would ask or desire. He did not find that love from his brothers, and he was actually kicked off from the family indirectly. They wanted to kill him, but these brothers said they do not want his blood to be upon them. They said, we'll sell him off. And he had to be in a different place. Where? Into the Egypt. True? So what we see here is happy life turning upside down. So now can we say that, Joseph loved God, right? But was the situation working in favor of him? But when we look into, I'm just saying, a word you can take the word and then, just have an understanding. But if we look into Joseph's life and this word, when it says, for those who love God, all things work together. Was everything working together for him? No. He was loving God. He was being faithful to his father. He was just like other all sons and all. He was trying to pitch into everybody, right? He was trying to patch up or make some connections with his brothers, all his groups and all. Be a part of them, kind of gang maintain karenge, ek saath, all brothers will flow and stuff. But somewhere he was not accepted because of the wisdom that he had and the dreams that he shared, and all brothers had hatred or envied him. And now what we see is he, from a happy living life, had to be in a place where he was called a prisoner, right? And he had to be called very bad terms. What do we call it? A prisoner, a slave, somebody, right? Somebody was having everything in life. All of a sudden, just because few people did not like, he had turned out to be a slave. And how would you or I would feel in such scenarios? That is one question that we would ask, right? We should ask. If everything is, we are loving God with all our hearts, but all of a sudden everything is upside down, all the life, a blessed life turns out to be like we are cast into a place where we are troubled or we are brought up as slaves. How would we trust God? But I see in the book of Genesis that Joseph did not curse God. Right? Do you find any verse regarding Joseph? Genesis 37 has it all. From 37, more of 37, where we see all of Joseph's dreams and all, and then in 39th verse we have about Joseph and Potiphar's wife, and all of this story and about Joseph from 37, Genesis chapter 37 we can read. Now what I wanted to share with all of us today is, in all of this, all I found is there are three things that are very most important and very much important for all of us in church, for me and you. whoever is listening to this sermon, was there are three major important things that actually, had his life happening. Jacob was faithful. True? I cannot hear anything. Was he faithful? Yes or no? We'll look into I'll just narrate the story for today. I would say Joseph was faithful. Joseph had the integrity. And third was Joseph has the leadership skills. And I would not take more of verses to show you, but what I would want to share today is, on a very small note, that when life was going well, things all of a sudden turned upside down. He was confounded, as a captive. He had to go to other place as slave. But then he did not leave the presence of the Lord. He did not, leave the fear of the Lord. But he feared the Lord. He loved the Lord, which actually made ways for God to work in his life. Do we believe it? And why should we believe it? Because word says it. Because it says that, Joseph was sold by his own brothers as a slave and purchased by Potiphar. Even in his worst times or bad times, he showed his integrity and skills. And how beautifully the word here says, in word, if we read in the book of Genesis chapter 39 verse 5, when you're hurt, when the human tendency or what exactly happens to us is, when you're hurt or when you're as we said the other time, like Daniel, if you're a slave, you do not respect that people, the culture, because you have the anger, right? And you would not be at peace. And when we are not at peace, you're not obviously at peace with the other person. You start fighting or being abusive or doing every other thing that actually makes you bad. But what we see here is a slave finding favor as God did great things through him. In Genesis 39 verse 5, it says, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. How beautiful it is. So the very first and foremost thing that I would wanted to share was faith. What did faith do through Joseph in the land of Egypt is he found the favor of Pharaoh. Right? Yes or no? He found the favor, and we see that, the Lord has blessed some other people. See, Egyptians, they don't trust Jesus, right? God. They don't trust God. For them, they have other gods, they have magicians, they do everything and all. But what we found here is, because of Joseph, the presence of Joseph and the love that he had for God and everything that he did through God's favor, the worldly people, like the Egyptian Potiphar, his life was blessed, his family was blessed, or his household was blessed. And one thing what I would say is that easy to find favor in your enemy's side? See, in the yesterday's, if you're a slave, you're an enemy. You're used, you're played, you're killed, you're tortured, right? How would a person find favor? The answer I found was faith. What did faith do? It says, Bible says faith is a gift from God, not a result from own actions. God gifted, it's kind of a God's gift to Joseph that he had faith and he trusted, leaned, he did not abuse God, he did not, cheat on God, he did not play or words with God. And when he said, okay, fine, God, I don't know why this happened to me, but I would see that wherever I am, let thy name be glorified and honored. You be with me, and I would still lean on to you. I have thy fear in my heart. That's where we see God working through Joseph. Faith, the very first thing, faith turned things upside down. A slave was given a beautiful high position in Pharaoh's chambers. Right? True. And what exactly happens on the second thing which I wanted to share was integrity. What do you say integrity? I would not say much about. Can anybody say what integrity is? Doing the right thing, yeah. There are many ways you can put up, but integrity, right? Joseph had a scene where he was played, right? He was he was pushed to sin, but he did not leave his integrity. And what exactly happens in real life is, if you show integrity, you should be blessed or you should be awarded with goodness for life, either financially or any moment or something as such. Now he is showing his integrity, but he was punished. But can I share this one beautiful thing that I've read was, even if he was caught or he was blamed, one beautiful thing which I read was, he was not hanged to death, but he was prisoned. There is so much into it. See, when you see that somebody has misbehaved with his wife, nobody would leave that man, right? And someone's wife is coming telling that this person has tried to take advantage of me in absence of everybody, that man would not leave this person. But what made that person true? What made that person spare Joseph's life? Can we think about it for a second? There is so much meaning into it. A slave can be easily chopped into pieces. No question mark. See, there is no court there. Officially, I'll take a date, let's have a sitting, proceedings and all. Let's study the whole case, what happened one after another. Only thing is, okay, my wife has told this thing up. The very next second, chop him into pieces, take him. But I see one beautiful line, yes, this caught me, that this husband, whoever he is, he spared Joseph's life, prisoned him, but he did not take his life. Sentenced him to prison, but did not take his life, which actually depicts or clearly shows the character of Joseph, the integrity of Joseph, the faith of Joseph, the skill of Joseph, that he himself thought, even if my wife is complaining, somewhere I cannot do this because I've seen this person. Ye aisa kar nahi sakta hai. I know he is a slave. There is God's favor now. You see God's favor, how it is acting? At this point of time, he should be chopped and killed. God's favor is upon Joseph, and it has made this person think and understand his act and his behavior, his walk of life from the day he was brought into this home as a slave, and then figure out what exactly is happening. And then this man also thought, okay, fine, now I cannot do anything but put him into prison. So which actually shows that Joseph had the integrity and he walked a fair path. Every step that he took, he won his in charge, his leaders, whoever is upon him, his heart. True, which is very beautiful and powerful, which actually is very most important to our youngsters these days. We work at places, we have people, we move around people, we go to offices and all, whatever, in relations everywhere. Would people give that acknowledgement towards us? Ashish would not do that. No matter what, if he's told this thing and all, people are telling about this thing, and Ashish would not say. I don't think so. Anybody could say that, right? And I would ask everybody today: are we growing into that stature where our employers or our families or our relations, anybody could say this thing, that even though the world is blaming this upon him, but I know this person. I've seen his sight. I've seen the way he walks. His walk is filled with fear of the Lord. True, right? I know I'm taking so much time, but so much depth into it. The whole thing changed here. But now we see, even if he tried to show up his integrity, run away from all of that, he was blamed, he was put in prison. But in prison also, Joseph did not leave God's presence. I don't see any verse where he cursed God. He said this is part and part. He felt, or he took it as a part and parcel of life. Then he started, okay, fine, this happened. Hmm? The positivity that he had towards life is okay, fine, I'm now here, fine. I've lost my home, what else can I expect from this world? True? Then I'll keep living as long as I live, I'll try to live faithfully no matter what happens. Just the same way as we discussed the other time about Daniel. यहाँ तक लेके आए हो, इससे क्या बुरा हो सकता है? What bad can happen here after being captivated as a slave and living? I have to live here, right? So that's where he said, जिएंगे तो यीशु के लिए, मरेंगे तो यीशु के लिए. True? You see that attitude? चाहो है ना ब्रत ना क्रिस्ते. It's Christ, death or life, it's Christ or God. Right? That kind of attitude he showed in the very beginning. And what we see here also is, now there again God brings opportunities upon opportunities. Now can you see this Romans 8:28? Those who love God, all things work favorable, good. And how could we say that? Now we see that there is one scenario where the Pharaoh has a dream, and there is someone who has to interpret it, and now again he is asking for all the magicians and everybody, all the geeks and all the knowledge filled guys and all masters, but nobody is able to. Now we see Joseph gets an opportunity. So this question now popped in my head was, would we have the patience to lean on to God until He makes way or creates a new doors for us to come out of the traps that the world has put into? If you can relate, things here look up the same. He was blamed, he had to go into prison. In prison, he was faithful to God, he had the fear of the Lord, and then he was looking up to God. He was, he never abused or did not do anything wrong that hurt God. And he waited on the Lord. And when it was time, it was an opportunity for him to come forward and share the dream. True? And what exactly happened when he shared the dream was, Pharaoh was impressed. Impressed by what? Can anybody tell me the answer? He was impressed by the first thing which we read here is, this truth or this interpretation does not just come by me. He says this comes from God. How dare you say to a Pharaoh who worships other God, who worships other person, you tell him upfront that, it is not my interpretation. My God has given me the wisdom. It takes a heart to stand in front of Pharaoh and tell, or what do we call it? Express your interest or who your God is. Take a stand for your God. How many of us are, ready to take a stand in the world today? Would we be able to tell, or would we just feel shy? It's a question for me also. At times when you're asked, when you're supposed to, keep up your faith, and when you have to show your faith or your trust or what you follow, what your beliefs are we able to express, or would we be like, just okay, fine, I would not fall into any of these questions, or I would not share anything. God knows my trust, or He knows my belief system, everything and all. But Joseph here tried to do everything to bring glory to God. He did not take credit upon himself. See, Pharaoh would not ask him. True? What is it to Pharaoh? Pharaoh kavals in the what does he want? He has a dream. That the dream has to be answered or interpreted. If that is not interpreted, he will not be at peace, and he'll start slaughtering everybody. Right? He's feeding many ministers, many masters, many magicians for the time as such. If you're not giving me the answer, I'll kill you off. That is what. But because of God's fear in Joseph, and the way he leaned and looked up to God, depended on God, he saved many lives. Is it true? At the same time, when he got the opportunity, he said, my God has revealed this. Which is one thing again, as youngsters, as church today, how many of us are able to have that faith in life? How many of us are able to keep up the integrity of a life? How many of us are able to, keep up or, put up that, my God, our God is greater. We sing so many songs as we do worship and all. But how many of us are able to reflect it? Right? Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say, or I'm just going aside? Am I able to, keep up everything that I want to? There's so much depth. It's just, maybe it's a story. But all you see here is a youngster, amidst of every chance of doing everything wrong. He can do anything wrong, everything wrong, because just say that, నువ్వు చేసావు కాబట్టి నాకు ఈరోజు ఈ పరిస్థితి వచ్చింది, why should I bow down to you, God? No. But I myself, I see God has done many things for me. But one thing He does not do, I'll put Bible away for 1 week. That has been my life at some time. I'll be open to accept. If you have done that, don't raise your hands, but if you are hurt by God for 1 second or one thing does not happen in our favor, what we do is, asalu nu Devudu venna, asalu nu unnavu, I never saw you, right? And we start doing everything wrong, and again, at some time again, God is so loving and caring that He'll reach out to us with word or with some comfort from pastor uncle, some nice prophecy, stating that my dear son, this and that, right? But how much of time that has been destroyed, and how much of relationship with God has been destroyed. But then again we feel bad again, and then we say, God, I'm really sorry, that was in that moment I was mad at you, and then I want to come back, accept me, I am the prodigal son again. How many times I said I am a prodigal son, Father? True? Because of the circumstances did not work in my favor. I was not like Joseph. I did not keep up my faith. Sometimes I did not keep up my integrity because people were not around. I did not keep up my skill. I did not show my skill where I was supposed to show the skill. I did not, lean on to God. And then when I failed, I said, "Arey God, you do everything. Uske liye sab kuch ho raha hai, sabke liye sab kuch ho raha hai. Mere saath kyun nahi hua?" You could do that. When you did all of those things that you did not do, I'm hurt now. I would not pray for a few days and all. If you're doing that, I would say, let us be the Joseph. Why? Because there is so much of into Joseph's life. He leaned on God when everything was going upside down. When every now and then when he was, he was kind of having all of the issues with people or brothers, everything and all, he leaned on God. He said, God, you would have greater purposes. There's one thing which I would want to share again very importantly is, there is Joseph. You are a Joseph in this world today. God has a greater purpose for you. On behalf of you, He is going to do greater things. Why would I would say is, I'll just cut short. I'm running short. I have took so much time already. And when we see Joseph rose to power, in the next chapters we see in Genesis, where he gets to protect his family. The same people, the dream also, right? Joseph shared this dream that, I have this so-and-so dream and all. And the whole of his family was mad at him that you are a small kid and you think you want us, that you're through a dream you're trying to say that, we'll all bow down to you, everything and all. You remember the dream? Right? I would not share the whole dream, but saying. But it came to reality. So when Joseph saw all of the dreams, he believed that this dream is true. God would make something out of it. God would make this dream come true at some day. For that I have to be faithful. And what is the cost of him being faithful? He protected his family. People, not just, how would I put it? I would probably put it as, if Joseph was in his family, for a second scenario we'll see, if his brothers would not have sold him to the slaves as a slave, if he was with his father, all of his family would have had all of this. When there was famine in Egypt, right? Egypt lo karuvu vachinappudu, famine vachinappudu, whatever he protected and provided for them, he would have planned for his people. If he was not sold, I'm saying. If he got sold, right? Am I clear? Ammabaddadu, Aiguptu vachadu, and then all of this happened. Someday he rose to power, Then a dream for okay, dream వచ్చింది, he shared everything and all. Then he got the opportunity to rule and then provide, protect and save grains for the future. If he would not sold, his family would have opportunity, right? This side of the coin is this: if he would not have been sold, he would be the brainy for the Israelites. On the other side, his family and everybody, and he would have done all of that. But see, the faithfulness of God, what did, when he was faithful to God, God was also so faithful to him that because of him being in Egypt, Egypt was blessed. They did not see famine. When whole of the earth was under famine, right? This is so much deep. When so world anta famine చూస్తున్నప్పుడు, Joseph was in Egypt and Egypt did not see famine, and they were selling the grains to other people. And I would, this would obviously, bring this to our notice. I would bring this to our notice that are we being the Joseph in this world? That we are staying in this world. We are visitors here. You're working somewhere. You're staying somewhere. Because of you, is that family blessed? Is your locality blessed? Is your church blessed? Is your family blessed? Is your relationship blessed? Right? Because of Joseph, Pharaoh's, household got blessed. After a few years, because of Joseph, everything that, the wisdom he had, the skill that he had, he planned everything. He guided all of his teammates under him, people under him that, we'll save this much, we'll protect and provide for ourselves, and then we'll store. Right? Through it, the land of Egypt was surplus, more than what they needed, and they started selling to other people also. So are we being, am I being the Joseph is the first question. In terms of faith, in terms of integrity, in terms of skill, in terms of, showcasing our love towards God. I know there is chaos. Kraistava Jeevitam, Saubhagya Jeevitam antarandi, but there is so much, right? When you accept Christ and when you go through, there is so much. But Romans 8:28, this is what I felt. Everything happens good for people who love. Joseph loved God. In all of this, Joseph said, God, whatever happens, happens. I would not leave you. I would not forsake you. I have seen what you are. Life or death, it is you. It is very hard for us humans to say this day because the scenarios are such. We are tempted every second. We're tormented every second, situations, circumstances. But today morning we heard Dr. Deepthi Akash share a nice word which was saying about the mountains in front of us. Every second, every day there is some or the other mountain in our lives. And in front of that mountains, it is very impossible to say that God, I'd lean on to you, I'm trusting on you. I would not deviate from you, I would not curse you. We tend to ask questions to God, ask God millions of questions. Make him feel like he never did anything to us. But in reality, if we look into Joseph's life, God had a greater plan. And for that, Joseph was under him, looking, surviving, praying, depending, to be in a place where he could protect his family, provide his family, and also save millions of people. Right? Maybe I would end today stating this one thing, that are we being the Joseph that our family needs, our church needs, our friend circle needs, our society needs, our country needs, right? Because one Joseph changed the whole scenario. And Joseph had God, Joseph feared God, Joseph loved God, Joseph depended on God. And we can see clearly there is so much of story of in depth. Please read Genesis chapter 37 to 50. More about Joseph. You'll understand so much about it. In depths of it, you see that there is so much of greatness of God that has happened, and this man's pursuit in standing for God. And I would encourage and pray today that may Lord lead us to be the Joseph we are to be when the time comes, so that God would lead us to the purpose and the destination where He has planned for us. For that, we might have to depend, lean, seek, love God.